Liam was a bright little baby, full of curiosity and energy. He had just started trying to crawl, and every movement he made seemed to excite his parents, Sarah and David. The living room had become Liam's little playground, with soft mats spread on the floor, colorful toys scattered around, and a small baby chair in the corner. Sarah loved watching Liam's small hands and knees move as he explored this new skill, while David often sat nearby, cheering him on and clapping whenever Liam managed even the tiniest crawl forward. But there was one thing that made both Sarah and David feel puzzled. Every time Liam tried to crawl across the room, their dog Max would appear almost magically at his side. Max was a large golden retriever with a calm, gentle nature. Everyone in the family adored him, and he had been with them since Liam was born. Max usually slept on his big bed near the window, or followed Sarah and David around the house wagging his tail softly. But as soon as Liam made a move toward crawling, Max would rise and quietly approach him. At first, Sarah and David thought Max was simply being playful. Perhaps he wanted to join Liam in his little adventures, but they soon noticed something strange. Whenever Liam tried to push forward, Max would gently nudge him back, sometimes using his paw or softly pressing against Liam's tiny body. Liam never cried. He only looked up at Max with wide, confused eyes. Sarah crouched down one morning and picked Liam up. "Max, what are you doing?" she asked in a quiet voice. Max wagged his tail but did not move away. It was almost as if he was watching carefully, making sure Liam stayed in a certain spot. David scratched his head and frowned slightly. "Maybe he thinks Liam is too small to crawl yet," he said. "But Liam isn't getting hurt. Why would Max stop him?" Sarah shook her head, feeling a mix of curiosity and concern. They had never seen Max behave this way with any other child or visitor. He was always calm and friendly, but this protective behavior was new. Determined to understand what was happening, Sarah decided to observe more carefully. She sat on the floor with Liam and Max, keeping her eyes fixed on every small movement. Liam started his crawling attempts again, wobbling forward with determination. As soon as he reached the edge of the rug near the sofa, Max quietly got up and nudged him back to the middle of the room. Liam looked up at Max, blinked, and then tried again. Max was patient but firm. He did not growl or bark aggressively. He only made sure Liam stayed in a specific area. Sarah whispered to David, "I think Max is trying to protect him, but from what?" David leaned closer, watching every movement. Liam reached toward a toy car near the corner, and Max quickly placed himself between Liam and the corner. It was almost as if Max had an invisible radar for danger. Sarah's mind raced. Could a dog really sense threats that humans could not? She had read stories about dogs protecting their families, but she never imagined Max would treat her own baby this carefully. The next day, Sarah decided to take notes. She wrote down the time Liam tried to crawl, the spots he moved toward, and Max's reactions. By the end of the day, she realized a pattern. Max always stopped Liam from moving toward certain areas. The corner near the sofa, the space under the coffee table, and the edge of the rug near the heater. Every time Liam approached these places, Max would nudge him back gently, without using any force. It was not a punishment. It was guidance. That evening, Sarah showed the notes to David. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the spots on the floor. "Max is stopping Liam from going to these areas, and I don't see why yet. But it is too consistent to be random." David leaned back on the sofa, looking thoughtful. "Maybe we should try recording this tomorrow. If we can see what Max is doing from start to finish, we might understand better." Sarah nodded. They agreed to set up a small camera in the living room to capture Liam's crawling attempts and Max's behavior. As Liam slept that night, Max lay on his bed near the window, keeping one eye slightly open. Even in sleep, he seemed alert. Sarah and David watched him for a moment and smiled. Max was more than just a pet. He was part of the family, and perhaps he knew something that they did not yet understand. The parents went to bed, excited and curious about the next day. They wondered what they would discover when they watched Max carefully. Liam's little adventure in crawling had become more than just a milestone. It had turned into a small mystery, with Max playing the role of a silent guardian. The next morning, Sarah woke early, eager to see what would happen with Liam and Max. She brewed a cup of tea and quietly walked into the living room. David followed, holding the small camera they had set up on a tripod, pointing at the area where Liam usually tried to crawl. The sun streamed softly through the windows, lighting up the room. Liam was already awake, sitting on his soft playmat, looking around with bright, curious eyes. Max lay nearby, his golden fur shining in the morning light, and his eyes never left Liam. As Liam began to rock back and forth on his tiny hands and knees, Max quietly got up and moved closer. Sarah held her breath. Liam pushed himself forward slightly, reaching for a colorful ball near the edge of the rug. Max immediately stepped in, gently nudging him back toward the center. Liam blinked at Max, unsure what was happening. Sarah whispered, "Good boy, Max, but why are you stopping him?" David quietly adjusted the camera, capturing every detail. This time they watched closely as Liam attempted to crawl toward the corner near the sofa. Max was right behind him, his movements careful and precise. As Liam inched closer, Max nudged him back with his nose, and Liam rolled onto his back, giggling. Max wagged his tail gently but stayed alert. Sarah's curiosity grew stronger. Something was clearly making Max cautious, but what could it be? David suggested they examine the areas where Max was stopping Liam. They looked at the corner near the sofa first. Sarah noticed small crumbs on the floor, left from a snack Liam had dropped earlier. Some were near the heater, which could have been slightly warm. She realized that even tiny crumbs could be dangerous if Liam tried to put them in his mouth. Moving to the space under the coffee table, David saw a small toy wheel that had rolled out of Liam's toy box. He bent down and picked it up carefully. "Maybe Max notices things we don't," he said quietly. Sarah nodded, realizing Max's instincts were much sharper than theirs. Throughout the morning, Liam tried several times to crawl into areas Max blocked. Each time, Max intervened gently but firmly. The dog's actions were so precise that it almost looked planned. Sarah and David began to understand that Max wasn't being playful or stubborn. He was guiding Liam, keeping him away from potential dangers that the baby couldn't see. Every step Liam took was carefully observed by Max, who seemed to have an invisible understanding of the safest path for the baby. Sarah felt a sense of relief and admiration for Max. She knelt next to him and stroked his head. "You are an amazing dog," she whispered. Max wagged his tail as if acknowledging her words. David smiled and added, "It's like he has his own plan to protect Liam. I have never seen anything like this before." Liam, still unaware of the care he was receiving, reached for a soft toy on the mat. Max stayed close, making sure the baby did not topple over or crawl too far. By lunchtime, Sarah and David had learned something important. Max was not stopping Liam to prevent him from learning to crawl. On the contrary, he was helping him explore safely. Every time Liam tried to reach a risky spot, Max guided him back. It was subtle, gentle, and careful, but the dog's protective nature was clear. Sarah realized that Max had been watching and thinking for days, even before they had noticed. That afternoon, the family spent more time observing. Liam tried to crawl toward the heater again, and Max nudged him back. Then Liam moved toward a small stack of books on the floor, and Max positioned himself between Liam and the books. The parents laughed softly, amazed by Max's awareness. "He's like a tiny teacher for Liam," David said. "He knows what's safe and what isn't." Sarah nodded, feeling grateful. The bond between the baby and the dog was stronger than ever. As evening came, Liam grew tired from all the crawling attempts. Max stayed near him, lying down beside the playmat, keeping his eyes on the baby. Sarah and David sat on the sofa, discussing what they had discovered. "We need to be more careful about these small hazards," Sarah said, "but Max has already been doing that for us." David chuckled and added, "I guess we have a guardian in the house who doesn't ask for anything in return." When Liam finally fell asleep in his crib that night, Max settled on his bed near the window. He kept one watchful eye open, as if making sure the baby was completely safe. Sarah and David watched him, realizing how lucky they were to have such a thoughtful and loyal dog. Max was more than a pet. He was a silent protector, watching over Liam with intelligence and care that went far beyond simple obedience. The parents went to bed that night feeling a mix of admiration and curiosity. They wondered what else Max would teach them about care, protection, and love. Liam's small journey of crawling had turned into a discovery of something much bigger: the quiet, patient, and loyal heart of a dog who loved their baby more than anyone could imagine. The next morning, Sarah and David were even more determined to understand Max's behavior. They had reviewed the previous day's recording and noticed every little detail: the way Max positioned himself, the gentle nudges, the careful observation of every corner Liam tried to reach. It was clear that Max was not being random or playful. He was protecting Liam, but the reason was still a mystery. Sarah set up the camera again, making sure it captured the whole living room, including the corners near the sofa, the coffee table, and the heater. David brought a notebook and pen to write down every action they observed. Liam, full of energy as always, sat on his playmat, looking at his toys with bright eyes. Max lay nearby, his golden fur glowing in the morning sun, watching Liam closely. Liam began to rock back and forth, preparing to crawl. As soon as he moved toward the corner near the sofa, Max got up quietly and nudged him back toward the center of the room. Sarah whispered, "Okay, Max, let's see what's going on." She paused the recording, replaying the moment on the small screen. Her eyes widened when she noticed something she had not seen before. Tiny black ants were crawling across the floor near the sofa, moving slowly toward the rug where Liam had been crawling. David leaned closer and gasped softly. "That's it," he said. "Max has been stopping Liam because of the ants. He knows they could bite him or make him uncomfortable." Sarah nodded in disbelief. She had never realized that Max could notice such small details. The dog had been paying attention to dangers that humans could easily miss. Excited to learn more, Sarah and David observed Liam again. This time they focused on the space under the coffee table. Liam reached toward a small toy wheel that had rolled out of his toy box. Max quickly positioned himself between Liam and the toy, nudging him gently back. Sarah picked up the toy and examined it. It was small enough that Liam could have tried to put it in his mouth, which could have been dangerous. Max had noticed it immediately. Throughout the morning, Liam continued his crawling attempts, and Max continued to guide him away from risky areas. The dog's behavior was consistent and precise. He never barked loudly, never snapped, never scared Liam. Instead, he used soft nudges, gentle paw movements, and his presence to redirect Liam to safer areas. Sarah and David were amazed. It was as if Max had an invisible map of the house in his mind and knew the safest paths for their baby to explore. By midday, the parents had learned something important. Max's protective instincts were more advanced than they had ever imagined. He was not stopping Liam from crawling to prevent him from learning. On the contrary, he was helping him explore safely, teaching him how to move without encountering danger. Each small intervention Max made allowed Liam to continue his crawling adventure without harm. Sarah and David decided to reward Max with praise and treats for his efforts. They knelt on the floor and patted his head. "Good boy, Max, you are amazing," Sarah said softly. Max wagged his tail, his eyes shining with calm intelligence. David smiled and added, "You are more than a pet. You are Liam's guardian." Liam giggled, reaching out to touch Max, and the dog leaned in gently, allowing the baby to feel safe and loved. In the afternoon, the family took a short walk in the garden. Max followed closely, keeping an eye on Liam as the baby explored small patches of grass. Liam crawled toward a group of small flowers, reaching out with his tiny hands. Max barked softly, guiding him away from a thorny plant. David laughed, realizing how much Max had learned about protecting Liam. "He even understands what's safe outside," he said. Sarah nodded. Max was more than a guardian inside the house. He was aware of dangers everywhere Liam might go. Back inside, Liam grew tired but still tried to crawl toward his favorite toys. Max stayed near him, his eyes alert, ready to intervene if necessary. Sarah and David sat on the sofa, watching the bond between their baby and their dog. It was stronger than anything they had imagined. Max's intelligence, loyalty, and care had created a safe environment for Liam to learn and grow. That evening, as Liam slept soundly in his crib, Max settled on his bed near the window. He kept one watchful eye on the baby, his breathing calm and steady. Sarah and David watched him, feeling grateful and amazed. They realized that Max had taught them an important lesson. Animals can sense dangers that humans might miss, and their loyalty and love are often beyond words. The parents went to bed that night thinking about the day's discoveries. They felt proud of Max, thankful for his careful protection and excited for Liam's future adventures. Max had become more than a pet. He was a teacher, a guide, and a silent guardian watching over the baby with patience, intelligence, and love that was unmatched. Liam's small journey of crawling had turned into an incredible story of trust, care, and the special bond between a baby and his dog. The next morning, Sarah and David were determined to understand Max even better. They had learned from the previous days that Max was not stopping Liam to be difficult or playful. He was protecting him, but the exact reason and how Max knew what was dangerous was still a mystery. Sarah set up the camera again, making sure it captured the entire living room. David had a notebook ready to record everything. Liam sat on his playmat, excited and full of energy as usual. Max lay nearby, keeping a calm watch. Sarah smiled. Seeing the baby's tiny hands reach toward a soft toy, she whispered to David, "I want to see everything today. Let's watch closely." Liam began rocking back and forth on his hands and knees, preparing to crawl. As Liam moved toward the corner near the sofa, Max got up quickly and nudged him back. Liam blinked at Max, unsure why he was being stopped. Sarah replayed the previous recordings and studied the corners carefully. That's when she noticed it. Tiny ants were crawling across the floor, moving slowly toward the edge of the rug. Liam had been crawling right into their path. Max had seen them immediately and stepped in to protect him. Sarah gasped softly. She had never thought about such a small danger before, but it made perfect sense. David leaned over and added, "It is amazing how he notices such tiny things. He really is protecting Liam." Sarah nodded. "It's more than protection. He knows exactly where Liam should and shouldn't go." Max has been watching very carefully since the beginning. They watched Liam again. This time he crawled toward a toy under the coffee table. Max positioned himself between the baby and the table, nudging him away gently. David picked up the toy and examined it. It was small enough that Liam could have put it in his mouth and choked. The parents realized that Max's actions were precise and thoughtful. He never used force. He did not growl or scare Liam. Instead, he guided him gently to safer areas. Max's behavior was consistent and patient, like a teacher guiding a student through a lesson. Liam did not understand it yet, but he trusted Max. Every time the dog nudged him, Liam stopped and giggled, then tried another direction. Sarah and David decided to make the living room safer, inspired by Max's guidance. They removed small toys from dangerous spots, cleaned up crumbs, and rearranged furniture. Even after these changes, Max stayed alert. He would still follow Liam's movements and gently guide him away from hazards, even the ones they had overlooked. The parents were amazed. Max's instincts were sharper than they had imagined. In the afternoon, Sarah sat on the floor with Liam and Max, watching the baby explore. Liam reached for his soft ball near the rug's edge. Max nudged him back gently, then sat close by, keeping a watchful eye on the baby. Sarah stroked Max's fur and whispered, "You are incredible. You have been protecting Liam all along." Max wagged his tail slightly as if he understood her words. David laughed softly and said, "It is like Max has a plan for Liam's safety. He knows the safest paths before Liam even starts moving." Sarah nodded, feeling grateful and amazed. Max's careful behavior had created a safe environment for their baby to explore and learn. Liam was becoming confident in crawling, yet he was never in danger because Max was always there, ready to guide him. Later, the family decided to spend some time in the garden. Liam was fascinated by the green grass, flowers, and small leaves on the ground. Max followed closely, alert and attentive. Liam crawled toward a patch of flowers, reaching out his tiny hands. Max barked softly, guiding him away from a thorny plant. Sarah and David realized that Max's protective instincts worked everywhere, not just inside the house, but outside too. The dog understood what could harm Liam, and he acted quickly to keep him safe. By evening, Liam was tired from all the crawling and exploring. Max stayed near him, lying down beside the playmat, ready to intervene if needed. Sarah and David sat on the sofa, watching the baby and the dog. They could see the special bond forming between them. Liam trusted Max completely, and Max's loyalty and care had become part of Liam's learning experience. When Liam finally fell asleep in his crib, Max lay on his bed near the window, one eye open, keeping watch. Sarah and David looked at him with admiration. They realized Max had taught them something important. Animals can notice dangers humans might overlook, and their loyalty is a form of love that goes beyond words. Max was not just a pet. He was a guardian, guiding Liam safely through every step of his early life. That night, as Sarah and David went to bed, they felt proud and thankful. They understood now that Liam's little crawling journey was not just about learning to move. It was also about trust, protect. The next morning, the sun filled the living room with warm light. Liam was already awake, sitting on his playmat and looking around with wide, curious eyes. Max lay nearby, his golden fur glowing softly in the sunlight. Sarah and David had grown even more amazed at Max's careful behavior. Every time Liam tried to crawl, Max was there ready to guide him safely. Liam began to rock back and forth on his tiny hands and knees, preparing to crawl. As soon as he moved toward the corner near the sofa, Max nudged him gently back toward the middle of the room. Liam blinked at Max, unsure what was happening. Sarah whispered softly, "Max is keeping him safe, just like always." David nodded and adjusted the camera to make sure they could record the entire session. Today, Sarah and David decided to pay even closer attention to what Max was doing. They noticed that Max's eyes were always scanning the floor, corners, and even small spaces between furniture. Every time Liam reached a risky spot, Max was quick to guide him away. The parents realized that Max was not just protecting Liam from obvious dangers like sharp corners or small objects. He was noticing tiny details, things that Sarah and David had never thought about before. As Liam crawled toward a pile of books near the wall, Max positioned himself carefully between the baby and the books. Sarah picked up the books and realized that one of them had a slightly sharp corner that could have scratched Liam. David leaned closer and said softly, "Max saw that before we did. He knew it could be dangerous." Sarah nodded, feeling grateful for the dog's careful attention. The parents also noticed that Max's behavior had taught Liam something important. The baby was learning to pay attention to where he was crawling. Even though he was small, Liam seemed to sense Max's guidance. Whenever Max nudged him back, Liam stopped, looked around, and tried a safer path. It was as if the dog was teaching him to explore carefully and thoughtfully. Later in the morning, Sarah and David brought out a few new toys for Liam. They placed them in different parts of the living room to see how Max would react. Liam eagerly crawled toward a colorful ball near the rug's edge. Max gently nudged him back and then guided him toward a safer spot with the ball in reach. Liam giggled and reached for the toy again, this time safely. Sarah smiled and whispered, "Max is like a teacher showing Liam the safest way to play." By midday, the parents had learned a lot from observing Max. They realized that his careful behavior had created a safe environment for Liam to learn and explore. Even small dangers that humans might overlook, like tiny crumbs or a slightly uneven floor, were noticed by Max. The dog's instincts were precise, patient, and consistent. He had been protecting Liam from the very beginning, even before Sarah and David fully understood. After lunch, Sarah and David decided to take Liam and Max outside into the garden. Liam was fascinated by the grass, flowers, and small leaves. He crawled toward a patch of flowers, reaching out his tiny hands. Max stayed close, watching carefully. When Liam moved toward a small thorny plant, Max barked softly and guided him away. Sarah laughed softly, realizing how much Max understood about outdoor dangers. David nodded, saying, "He protects him everywhere, inside and outside. Max really is amazing." By the afternoon, Liam was growing tired from all the crawling and exploring. Max stayed near him, lying down but keeping his eyes alert. Sarah and David sat on the sofa, watching the baby and the dog. They could see the special bond forming between them. Liam trusted Max completely, and Max's loyalty and care had become part of Liam's learning experience. The dog was patient, calm, and always ready to guide the baby safely. When evening came, Liam finally fell asleep in his crib. Max settled on his bed near the window, keeping one watchful eye on the baby. Sarah and David looked at him with admiration. They realized Max had taught them an important lesson. Love and care can be quiet, gentle, and consistent. Sometimes the greatest protection comes without words or instructions, simply through presence, awareness, and devotion. That night, Sarah and David went to bed feeling proud and thankful. They understood that Liam's crawling journey was not just about learning to move. It was about trust, protection, and the special bond between a baby and his loyal dog. Max had become an invisible teacher, silently guiding Liam, keeping him safe, and showing the family that attention, patience, and love could make a big difference in a child's life. The parents fell asleep, thinking about all the small ways Max had helped Liam grow. They felt grateful for their wise, gentle, and loyal dog. Max had become more than a pet. He was a guardian, a guide, and a part of Liam's world in a way that Sarah and David had never imagined possible. Every day, Max continued to watch over Liam, protecting him, teaching him, and loving him silently, in the quietest and most extraordinary ways. The morning sun filled the living room with a warm glow as Liam woke up, full of energy and excitement. Max, as always, was already awake, lying on the rug near Liam's playmat. His golden fur shimmered softly in the sunlight, and his eyes followed every movement of the baby. Sarah and David had grown used to watching this special bond between the two. They knew that Max was more than just a pet. He was Liam's guardian, patiently guiding him and keeping him safe. Liam started rocking back and forth on his tiny hands and knees, preparing to crawl. Max immediately got up and positioned himself beside the baby. Sarah and David watched closely, taking notes and occasionally recording the moment on their camera. Liam reached for a soft toy near the corner of the rug. Max nudged him gently back toward the center. Liam blinked at Max, unsure why he was being guided, but he stopped and looked around. Sarah smiled, whispering, "Max is keeping him safe, just like always." Today, the parents decided to let Liam explore a little further than usual. They carefully moved a few toys to different areas, creating new paths for the baby. Liam's curiosity grew as he reached toward a colorful ball near the edge of the rug. Max watched every move carefully. When Liam inched too close to the edge, Max nudged him back with his nose and then stayed nearby, observing. Liam giggled at Max, learning to trust his guidance. After a while, David suggested they take Liam and Max outside into the garden. The garden was a small, safe area with green grass, flowers, and a few trees. Liam had never crawled outside before, and Max followed closely, attentive to every movement. The baby crawled toward a patch of flowers, reaching out with his tiny hands. Max barked softly, guiding him away from a small thorny bush. Sarah laughed softly, realizing how much Max understood about outdoor dangers as well. David nodded, saying, "He really is everywhere, keeping him safe." Liam's eyes sparkled with curiosity as he explored the garden. He reached toward a small puddle of water near the edge of the grass. Max stepped in between him and the puddle, nudging him gently away. Liam looked at Max and then at his parents, smiling. He seemed to understand that Max was helping him, even if he did not fully know why. Sarah and David exchanged glances. They realized that Max's patience and care were teaching Liam something important. Not just how to crawl, but how to explore the world carefully and safely. As the morning passed, Liam grew more confident in his movements. He crawled slowly, testing his balance and discovering new toys and textures. Max stayed close, ready to intervene whenever there was even the smallest risk. He nudged Liam away from sharp leaves, loose stones, and uneven patches of grass. Every time Max guided him, Liam laughed and tried a different direction. Sarah whispered, "Max is teaching him patience and awareness. He is not just protecting him, he is guiding him." By midday, Liam was tired but happy. Sarah and David sat on a garden bench, watching the baby and the dog. Max lay down nearby, alert and watchful, his eyes always on Liam. The parents felt proud and thankful. Max had become an important part of their family in a way that went far beyond companionship. He was teaching, guiding, and protecting all at the same time. Later, as they returned inside, Liam crawled toward his favorite toys on the playmat. Max followed closely, staying near him and guiding him safely. Sarah and David noticed how much Liam had learned to trust Max. The baby moved carefully, looking at Max for guidance, and Max responded with gentle nudges and careful positioning. Their bond was growing stronger every day, built on trust, safety, and love. When evening came, Liam finally fell asleep in his crib. Max settled on his bed near the window, keeping one watchful eye on the baby. Sarah and David watched him, feeling admiration and gratitude. Max had taught them something important. Protection and care can be quiet, gentle, and constant. True love sometimes does not need words. Max's loyalty and attention had created a safe environment for Liam to learn, explore, and grow. As Sarah and David went to bed that night, they thought about all the small ways Max had helped Liam throughout the day. They realized that Liam's little adventures were not just about crawling or playing. They were about trust, safety, and the special bond between a baby and his loyal dog. Max had become an invisible guardian, a patient teacher, and a loving companion, showing them every day that attention, awareness, and care could make a huge difference in a child's life. The parents fell asleep, proud and thankful. They knew that Max's guidance would continue to shape Liam's early years, helping him explore the world safely and confidently. Max was more than a pet. He was a teacher, a protector, and a friend. The next morning, Liam woke up full of energy and excitement. The sunlight streamed through the windows, lighting up the living room. Max was already awake, lying on his rug near Liam's playmat, his golden fur shining softly in the warm light. Sarah and David had learned over the past weeks that Max was more than just a pet. He was Liam's guardian, patiently guiding him and keeping him safe while allowing the baby to explore and grow. Liam began to rock back and forth on his tiny hands and knees, preparing to crawl. As soon as he moved toward the edge of the rug, Max nudged him gently back toward the center. Liam blinked at Max, unsure why he was being guided, but he smiled and stopped. Sarah whispered softly, "Max knows what is safe. He is teaching Liam carefully." David nodded, adjusting the camera to capture every movement. Today, Sarah and David decided to create a new small obstacle course for Liam. They placed some soft toys, a small pillow and a blanket on the floor, creating a path that Liam could crawl through. The goal was to encourage him to explore while staying safe. Liam's eyes sparkled with curiosity as he looked at the arrangement. He rocked back and forth, then began crawling toward the first toy. Max followed closely, staying beside him and guiding him gently away from any small risks. As Liam moved toward the blanket, Max noticed a tiny patch of spilled juice on the floor. He quickly positioned himself between Liam and the sticky spot, nudging him toward the safe side. Liam looked at Max and laughed, following the direction of his gentle guidance. Sarah smiled, realizing how much Max had taught Liam about paying attention to his surroundings. The baby was learning to navigate the world carefully, thanks to Max's quiet instruction. After the indoor play, Sarah and David decided to take Liam and Max into the garden again. The baby had started to show interest in crawling outside, and Max followed closely, alert and watchful. Liam crawled toward a small puddle, reaching out his tiny hands. Max barked softly and guided him away from the water. Liam looked at the dog and then at his parents, smiling. It was clear that he trusted Max completely. As Liam explored the garden, he crawled toward a patch of flowers near the fence. Max stepped in between him and the flowers, nudging him gently to a safer spot. Sarah and David laughed softly, amazed at how much Max understood about outdoor dangers. Even the tiniest risk, like a thorn or an uneven patch of grass, did not escape Max's careful observation. David whispered, "Max is everywhere, protecting him. He really sees everything." Later in the afternoon, Sarah placed a few new toys on the floor for Liam to explore. The baby crawled eagerly toward them and Max followed, always watching carefully. When Liam reached toward a small stuffed animal near the corner, Max nudged him back. Sarah picked up the toy and noticed a tiny loose button on it that could have been dangerous. Max had seen it immediately and guided Liam safely. Sarah and David realized that Max's careful behavior had prevented many small accidents before they even happened. By evening, Liam was growing tired from all the crawling and exploring. Max stayed near him, lying down but keeping his eyes alert. Sarah and David sat on the sofa, watching their baby and the dog. They noticed the trust that had formed between them. Liam looked at Max before reaching for toys, and Max responded with gentle guidance. Their bond had grown strong, built on trust, safety, and love. When Liam finally fell asleep in his crib, Max settled on his bed near the window. One eye remained open, keeping watch over the baby. Sarah and David watched quietly, feeling admiration and gratitude. Max had taught them an important lesson. True care can be gentle, patient, and constant. Love does not always need words. Max had created a safe environment for Liam to explore, learn, and grow. That night, as Sarah and David went to bed, they reflected on the day. They realized that Liam's crawling journey was more than just a learning milestone. It was about trust, protection, and the bond between a baby and a loyal dog. Max had become an invisible teacher, silently guiding Liam, keeping him safe, and teaching the family that awareness, patience, and care could make a huge difference in a child's life. The parents felt proud and thankful. They knew that Max's guidance would continue to shape Liam's early years. Max was not just a pet. He was a teacher, protector, and a loyal friend. Every day he watched, guided, and cared for the little boy he loved more than anything. Sarah and David felt lucky and blessed to have such a thoughtful, intelligent, and loving dog in their family. Liam's adventures had become safe and joyful, thanks to Max's quiet but constant guardianship. The house was calm that morning. Soft light came through the curtains, and Liam played happily on his mat while Max stayed close, as always. Sarah and David had become so used to Max's gentle guidance that it now felt like a normal part of their life. But in their hearts, they still wondered why Max acted with such care every single time Liam tried to crawl. It was more than simple loyalty. It was as if Max knew something they did not. That day, Sarah invited her mother to visit. She wanted her to see how much Liam had grown and how Max stayed like a guardian beside him. When her mother arrived, she sat down on the sofa, smiling as she watched Liam crawl. Max immediately shifted, guiding the baby away from the table's corner. Sarah's mother noticed and asked, "Why does he always push him back like that?" Sarah explained everything they had observed. She told her mother how Max never let Liam crawl too close to the walls, the furniture, or anything that might be unsafe. She spoke about the outdoor moments too, how Max protected Liam from the puddles, the bushes, even tiny sharp leaves. David added, "He's like a teacher. It feels like he understands danger before we even see it." Her mother's smile grew softer. She nodded slowly, and then told them something that left Sarah and David speechless. She reminded them of the day they first brought Liam home from the hospital. Max had been waiting at the door, and when Sarah placed the baby down in his crib, Max had not moved from that spot for hours. "You didn't notice it then," she said gently. "But Max has always known Liam needed special care. Dogs can sense things we cannot. They feel weakness, they notice imbalance, and they protect with all their heart." David leaned back, surprised by her words. He remembered how Max had barked whenever someone unknown came near the baby during those first few months. At the time, they thought it was simple jealousy or extra loyalty. But now, hearing this, he realized there might be something deeper. Later in the evening, Sarah found an old folder in the cabinet. It held some of Liam's early medical notes. She sat with David and read through them carefully. One small note stood out. It said that Liam's muscles were slightly weaker than usual, something that might make crawling and walking harder in his first years. The doctor had not been very worried, saying it could improve with time, but Sarah and David had completely forgotten about it. Their eyes filled with tears as the truth became clear. Max had somehow understood it all along. He had sensed Liam's weakness. He had noticed that the baby could lose balance more easily than others. That was why Max always pushed him down gently or guided him away from danger. Max was not stopping him from crawling. He was making sure Liam learned slowly, safely, without any sudden falls that might hurt him. Sarah covered her mouth with her hand. David whispered, "He knew before we did. He's been protecting Liam in ways we never understood." They looked at Max, who was lying near the playmat, his eyes steady and gentle as he watched Liam crawl. It was as if Max understood that his secret had been discovered, but he remained calm, his tail wagging softly. From that day on, Sarah and David saw Max with new eyes. He was not only a pet, not only a guardian, he was a quiet healer, a silent teacher who had given his heart to their baby without expecting anything in return. They realized that Max's gentle nudges, his constant watch, his patient guidance, everything was part of a plan to keep Liam safe while still letting him grow strong. That evening, Sarah knelt beside Max and hugged him tightly. "Thank you," she whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. Max leaned into her embrace, wagging his tail softly, his eyes warm and full of loyalty. David stroked Max's head and said, "You are family. You always were." In the weeks that followed, Sarah and David encouraged Liam's crawling with even more confidence. Knowing Max was there, slowly Liam grew stronger, his movement steadier, and every time he crawled, Max was still right beside him, guiding him gently, ready to protect him if he wobbled or reached too far. The neighbors, friends, and relatives who visited were amazed at the sight of the baby and the dog moving together, as if they shared one heart. Liam laughed more each day, his trust in Max shining through his innocent eyes. The bond between them became the center of the home, a reminder that love could be silent yet powerful, soft yet unbreakable. Years later, when Liam began to take his first steps, Max was still at his side. The parents watched with full hearts, remembering the long days of crawling, the gentle nudges, and the secret they had discovered. They knew they could never repay Max for what he had given them, but they promised themselves one thing: to love him for the rest of his life, the same way he had loved and protected their child. And so the story of Liam and Max continued. It was not just about a baby learning to crawl or a dog guiding him. It was about trust, patience, and a silent wisdom that even humans sometimes miss. Sarah and David.